All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. Martin False here, and we're going to talk a little music on this segment. And very pleased and honored to have a young man with us today that is certainly on the rise. If not there already, we'll talk about it. But Jonathan Dufresne is a saxophonist. He's a DMA candidate, University of Illinois, which is a Doctor of Musical Art, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got that right. University of Illinois Music Admissions Graduate Assistant, and DMA candidate, University of Illinois. Is that Urbana-Champaign 2024?
Close, Urbana-Champaign.
Urbana, okay. And University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign 2022. UC Music Entrepreneurship Certificate 2022, and a BM Louisiana State University 2020. He attends the University of Illinois and will be playing, or has played, and we're going to talk about that, Carnegie Hall. This is so cool as we were talking about this, and we're going to show some clips. But first of all, I was getting calls. Did you hear? Young man from home is going to be playing at Carnegie Hall. I said, well, give me the information. So I called the number they gave me, and here you are. What a fantastic journey you have been on. Where'd you go to school around here?
Well, I went to high school at Terrebonne High.
Okay.
And then I went to Home Junior High before that, and then I went to elementary school at Mulberry Elementary School.
When did you know the sax was your friend?
Probably around 8th grade or so. Actually hated band whenever I first started, which was kind of funny, but my parents, they told me to stick it out, and then by the time I got to about 7th, 8th grade or so, I started taking private lessons, and, I really started to enjoy it a lot more.
That is so cool because, a lot of people, and I was one of them that took music lessons early on and then discovered sports, and we all think we're going to be a professional athlete, and then when that doesn't happen, everybody goes back to music. Music makes the world go around. But the sax, why the sax?
Well, the saxophone, it just has such a malleable timbre. It can fit into so many different contexts. It can fit in a classical context, which is what I do a lot in school and everything, but it can also fit into a jazz context, pop, all these different areas, and it's just, you can use it in so many different situations, and it's just been seen in so many different platforms, different artists, it's so versatile.
And it just brings everything together.
Agreed.
Yeah, it really does, and it's so fluid, and it's a beautiful instrument. I want to start off the show, if we can, because a lot of people are going, well, wait, I want to hear him. All right, so we got 4 clips loaded up. We're going to show you a 34-second clip of Jonathan on saxophone. Wow, that's pretty impressive, and we're going to show some more of that. But when did you start realizing that, and I'm going to ask you to brag a little bit, but most people who are in anything they do, there's that it factor when they realize, I think I could get to the next level. You obviously have the it factor. When did you start sensing that you actually had that?
Well, for a while, I didn't really think of it that way, actually. When I was in junior high and high school, especially, I just truly enjoyed it. I practiced so much. I would come home and, I'd practice on school days for, 2 hours plus a day. On weekends, I'd be practicing for 6 hours a day, but it didn't really feel like that. It just felt like I just enjoyed what I was doing, I just thought like, oh, it would be so cool if I could do this or if I could play this or something. So I was constantly working at it, and then I started to notice, I excelled at it because I put in so much work. And then one thing led to another, and I'd say really it was around that high school time that I started to really feel that I excelled at it. When I'd make honor bands, when I would when I would just play around different people, and people would be like, oh, I like how he sounds and all this stuff. I sort of had to take a step back and kind of reflect, and then eventually college was around the corner, and I'd have to start deciding, okay, what do I want to major in? And then it was like, okay, well, architecture sounds cool, maybe the medical field, maybe all these different things. But whenever I would talk to anybody about it, they'd always be like, you mean you're not going into music? And I'd be like, well, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
So-
and that's incredible. So when you come back, and one of the first questions I asked you off camera was, do you ever play in a band? And you said, yeah, you play with the Fish Sticks.
Yeah, Snapper and the Fish Sticks.
Snapper and the Fish Sticks. And Nick, I know Nick in that band, but who else have you played with?
So there was this group I played with a few times when I was doing my undergrad at LSU, New Orleans Karma.
Yeah.
I know they've done the 12th night here a few times.
Yeah.
They do a bunch of Mardi Gras balls in New Orleans. I played with them at Champion Square for the Sugar Bowl once too. They do that pretty regularly, I think. But there was also Water's Edge. They're a group based out of Napoleonville, Louisiana, and they'll play like the Marshland Festival and different things like that.
I've always said this. Band members don't get a lot of credit when football gets all the glory, sports get all the glory, but band gets credit later when people excel and they come back or they ascend. And I think that's so unfair. But recently, I've seen a lot of the bands getting more recognition, especially when they go and compete. And I'm glad to see the emphasis now being put on that, because a lot of football players out there working hard and practicing, y'all are working hard, many, many hours. So when you were practicing your sax, how many hours did you spend on this?
Whew. When I was in high school, probably around 2 hours on school days, and on holidays and weekends, I was probably playing close to 6 hours a day.
That's incredible. And like any other instrument, guitar or whatever, when you're starting and you're getting in those tough areas where it's hard to make the transitions or whatever, when you're able to make that transition and there's nobody in the room, you're going, yes, I got it. But it's like anything else, the practice and the persistent, it starts to show. Doesn't it build your confidence?
It does. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things that would drive me to continue practicing, even when it's harder to kind of push through.
And just fight through it. I want to go to another clip. This is a 1:04 clip, same setting, but a different tune you'll listen to. And then we'll come back and we'll let Jonathan explain what this is all about as he plays. That's incredible. To me, it's effortless, although I know you're putting a lot of effort in it. But describe what you were just playing. I saw you were accompanied by a piano. Is that a typical type of recital thing?
Yes. Most of the time, I will be accompanied by a pianist. Not always, but most of the time. That recording was actually taken from my master's recital. That was a piece entitled "The Fuzzy Bird Sonata" by a Japanese composer named Takashi Yoshimatsu.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite pieces in the classical saxophone repertoire.
You look cool as a cucumber right there. I mean,
Thank you.
I mean, were you like that inside?
Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't. It just part of the practice is just being able to make it look as effortless as possible.
Yeah.
Especially doing something from memory like that, I have to practice in a mirror to kind of get my body language down and make sure what I'm giving off is what I want to give off. You know,
Right.
the character of the piece. You know, if it's something that's joyous or something that's euphoric or something, I want to be able to give off that kind of body language whenever I play.
But there's a confident stature that I see when you're playing, and we always call it in this business, you're in command of your surroundings and yourself. You can feel when you are.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it doesn't just spring up overnight, does it?
No, not at all.
Do you remember your first audition?
Oh, yeah, I do.
And that look you're giving me is like, it was probably nerve-wracking.
It was pretty rough.
Who were some of your teachers along the way?
So my first saxophone teacher is a guy in Home. I used to take lessons with him at Fabregas back when it was the building was still here.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's been torn down after Ida.
Yeah.
But this guy, his name was Mr. Salvador Lacasio.
Oh, yeah, he just passed.
He just passed. Yeah,
Great guy.
Unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing person. And he taught me all the fundamentals that I learned in the beginning stages, and he taught me so much. You know, more than music with that guy. You know, just how to be a good person and everything. He was amazing.
Yeah.
But eventually, after him, I started taking with somebody also from Homa. Her name's Jennifer C4A. And she went to school in LSU, and she used to teach at Homa Junior High in Terrebonne, and now she's over at the North Shore, I think.
Okay.
But after her, when I studied at LSU, I studied with Dr. Griffin Campbell, who's a saxophone professor over there, and right now, for my master's and my current degree, I'm studying with Deborah Rickmeyer.
Wouldn't everybody love to play at Carnegie Hall? Well, Jonathan has gone through the competition, and so tell me about this. When will this take place?
March 16th.
Okay, and how tense was it playing to get to that? How much competition was there?
Well, so this was an international competition that basically took place in New York City. So you had people coming in from Asia, Europe, Canada, the United States, all over. So it was there was some stiff competition for sure.
So you do sax players, do like football players, and when the competition comes out, you sizing them up and you saying, I wonder. I mean, how do you tell if somebody's a good sax player or not, huh?
I try not to. I try to keep to myself at these competitions
Cool.
because it'll just kind of psych me out, you know, if I start to listen to other people, because a lot of people at this level, you know, they're very good. So, you know, it can be intimidating even if you are on their level, you know, it can be kind of intimidating. So whenever I do these types of things, I just try to kind of keep to myself, you know, and try
What do you
to
do? Put headsets on when they're playing so you don't hear them?
I just try to tune them out.
Cool. That's a good way of doing it. Just staying in your zone.
Basically.
Wow, that's cool. Let's roll in a minute 12 clip right here of Jonathan. Jonathan, that's amazing. Where was that at?
So that was where I go to school at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. That was actually this past semester on my first doctoral recital. It was a piece called Gradient, and I'm sure you heard there were a lot of loud percussive sounds and everything. And that piece is interesting because it's just every other note is slap tonguing, and we had to put paper and books like in the piano and everything to make like that to give it sort of a percussive effect.
Right.
And that was a really fun piece. It's
The piano player is excellent too.
She's amazing. Her name is Kavina Lam. She's incredible. She's from China and she's played all over the world. You can't ask for better with her. She's just always on top of it.
So let's play it now that we have a 38-second clip. It'll be the final clip we show before we wrap up with Jonathan. But let's listen in and let him describe it after we hear it. Yes, indeed. Describe that.
So that's a piece written by Astor Piazzolla, and it's actually an arrangement by a good friend of mine named Michael Chapa, who's now in Georgia. But so that's a saxophone quartet that I play with back at school. There are actually 2 undergrads in there, and they're really, really good. But I was on soprano, in case it was hard to tell for any reason. But yeah, it's based off of a tango, so that's kind of a fun one to play.
So in closing, when we talk about a doctor of musical art, you chose a path that you love. I guess the enjoyment of choosing something you love to do invigorates you when you do it.
Indeed.
Yeah, and what's your goal when it's all said and done?
When it's all said and done, I'd like to be a college professor.
Wow. So you want to teach others?
I do.
Did that sort of come from people like Mr. Salvador and people like that who inspired you?
Definitely.
And you want to give back?
Definitely. Definitely.
Wow. And for somebody watching real quick who's maybe, I say young, but you're what, 24, 25? 24, right?
24.
So for somebody young who's watching who says, I want to learn to play the sax, what kind of qualities do they have to have?
Honestly, they just have to be willing to work. They just have to be willing to put in the time, and if they want it, they can do it.
And a lot of endurance.
That comes with time.
You don't just go in there and do what you were doing. You got to build up your lung capacity and everything like that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But you're going to come back after you play at Carnegie, right?
I will.
I'd love to see, though. Are they going to be taping it? Or?
I think so. I can find out.
Find out. Let me know. And if not, we'll send a camera. That's amazing. A great feat by you. Congratulations on putting in the time. And we look forward to having you back and showcasing what you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right. Great story here on Bayou Time. We will take a short break. We will be back with a lot more. But if you have someone who's aspiring or ascending in their form of work, we'd love to have you on Bayou Time. From time to time, you see us putting musical geniuses on there that have ascended real easy, but a lot of work behind it. We'd love to hear from you. So if you have somebody who's interested, let us know. We'll see you around the corner. Don't go away.